So Amy Adams' Company and Annapurna first optioned the book Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder before it was published, actually, and sent me the manuscript. And Amy sent it to me saying, I would love to work with you. I have no idea if this piques your interest, but I found this book very moving. Take a look and see what you think. And I read it, and it was post-pandemic. During the pandemic, I was pregnant with my second child. I had moved out of the city to live in the woods. I was raising my two kids. My husband had gone back to work, and I was sort of losing my mind with the isolation. And this book spoke to me on so many levels. I just felt so seen by it. It's like when you really see a piece of media that feels like it represents you, it's like the most cathartic thing in the world. And I felt so moved by how my experience of motherhood felt so reflected in Rachel's writing, and how she was able to just capture the real feeling of both the complexities of the feelings of the joy and love and the monotony and the boredom and the feeling that your brain is not your own and your body is not your own and you don't know if you'll ever be the same again. And so I just knew I had to adapt it. I think there's sometimes some misconceptions about the process of adaptation. It's never a one-to-one translation. It's not just taking this one book and translating it into a movie. It's much more like, how would you take a painting of something and turn it into a sculpture? It has to change forms and change mediums. And so a lot of that process for me, because I love adapting, is finding source material that I absolutely adore, getting to know it so deeply that it almost feels inside of me, and then letting it shift and grow into something new that has a different form, that takes a different timing, that has a different shape. Like something in her book where she would constantly describe many days that went on and on that had similarities. I created into a montage where we're having these percussive elements, and there's hash browns and going to the park and a swing and a this and a that. It's like physicalizing this idea and this concept and finding ways to make that physical, as well as just the overall shape of the story. So it's a tough process. Sometimes it means letting go of parts of the book that you might have loved, parts of the book I loved, because you can't keep everything, and letting it grow into something new. When we were thinking about the transformation in the movie, we kept looking to other movies and transformations and realizing that in most kind of body horror transformation movies, the transformation is very painful. It's like a ripping open, or like something poking out of you, or like your skin being torn off, and it feels awful. And I realized this transformation needed to feel good. It needed to feel exuberant and like a catharsis, and like everything is finally coming to fruition. And it had a bit of an ecstasy to it. So it was, how do we change this trajectory so that it feels good? The unlock for me was realizing that we could, I chose this idea that she's digging in her garden. It felt like it made sense for the story. She's sort of been excavating and digging through her past and her own mother and her grandmother, and thinking through her past life as an artist. She's sort of digging through her past to try and understand who she is currently. And at the same time, she's physically digging in her lawn. And that led me to how to build the transformation sequences out of that digging. Amy is one of the best actors working. I think she's got a timeless quality. She is so emotionally tapped in. I keep thinking about the fact that right before this, I think the movie she filmed right before this was Disenchanted, and she came to this movie. Talk about a range. It's like she can sing, she can dance, she can be a Disney princess, and she can do this very raw, very intimate, very vulnerable work that I asked her to do in this movie. And she sort of moves between those two worlds so seamlessly. It's pretty incredible to witness. Absolutely. So much of what I brought to the script was bringing my own stories of my own mothering journey and my friends' mothering journeys to the story. And Amy and I talked so much about how we both feel and have felt, particularly in the first years of mothering. And those came to the story in so many different ways. Also, so much of the story is about long-term relationships and what it is to be in a long-term relationship, no matter whether you have kids or not. And the ways in which you can fall into ruts and roles and a division of labor that can feel unfair without you even realizing it. One person's career becomes more important than the other person's. You might move for that person or whatever it might be. And realizing that you can kind of wake up and go, wait, how did we get here? How is this, did we make choices that led us here, or did we just end up here? And then trying to reset and consciously make choices about how you want your relationship to work. So we talked a lot about that too, about what it is to be in a long-term relationship, whether it's a heterosexual, homosexual relationship, whatever it might be, that to kind of be able to redefine your roles throughout your relationship is, I think, the key to long-term success. I think some of my favorite responses are when people say, I'm not a mother, or I don't have kids yet, but this movie made me think about my mom and I called her right afterwards. Or I think there is an invisible labor to motherhood, particularly, that we don't really talk about or acknowledge often. There's often sacrifices that go along with being a mom. You know, I know there are choices I've made along my path as a director that I wouldn't have made if I wasn't a mom, good and bad. And pretty much we all spend our time as moms. It's a pretty thankless job, but feeling seen is really meaningful. So I'm hoping this makes people feel seen.